My name is Len Dyer, and welcome to the National Armor and Cavalry Restoration Shop. As Germany attacks into Poland in 1939, the development of their panzer divisions will dictate what the medium tanks and light tanks that America will develop will turn into. In the 1930s, we had developed the M2 series medium tank and M2 light tank. Behind me is the M2-A1 medium tank system. It was going to be the primary vehicle in the tank battalions, with 3 companies and then 1 company of light tanks being the long-term goal. As the war in Europe developed, they very quickly found that it had inadequacies that had to be taken advantage of and improved upon. Mostly, they found that the number of machine guns on the vehicle were considered excessive. The M2 medium actually carried a total of 9 machine guns on her, which is part of her infantry support role element. The 37mm in the revolving turret had the primary purpose of engaging and destroying most light and medium tanks of the day. If they encountered a heavy tank, then the tank would not have that capability of defeating it. But for the most part, the vehicle actually proved to be mechanically extremely reliable with the radial engine system that they had in the vehicle. Speed approximately 24 miles per hour, so it was relatively quick for its time period, and it did have a very high silhouette, which they feared was a bit of a problem. As they watched the development of the war and started to realize, especially with the Panzer IV, that it had a short-barreled 75mm, the gun system at some point in time would need to be improved, and that would lead to future development of vehicles. The primary focal point on the M2, though, is going to be its track and suspension system on its chassis, the layout of the engine, the drive shaft, and a front transmission that will become the foundation for most of the primary vehicles used in World War II by the American Armored Forces. Most of the M2s were used stateside in training maneuvers all throughout the country, with the most famous, of course, being the Louisiana maneuvers in 1940 and 41, in which the vehicle was supporting the Army maneuvers to see how well we were prepared to deal with the entire World War II episode. During the actual maneuvers, the United States Army used this vehicle extensively, but the M2 medium is not a combat veteran. She was only a stateside piece that was used mostly for training, mostly before the war, and then after the war kicked on, it was still used as a driver-trainer component as far as that goes. The most significant improvement over the earlier vehicles used from the World War I time period is the fact that it's got a revolving turret up on the top. The revolving turret allowed the gun system to fire in 360-degree locations, allowing it then to engage targets. Now, with the machine gun systems, they could also simultaneously engage other targets in different locations. The sponset systems actually allowed the machine guns on either side to end up engaging literally 360-degree defensive elements, to include even firing to the rear of the vehicle with armor plates to deflect the bullets backwards. Mostly, though, it's going to be the mechanical reliability of this vehicle, the revolving turret, and the simplicity of maintenance that's going to cause this vehicle to be a huge upgrade over the World War I vintage vehicles. The issue with the larger tanks like the British Mark V and the Mark VIII Liberty series was to deal with trench warfare. As vehicle development improved, they found that trenches could be dealt with using engineering assets that later on would be incorporated. Things like bulldozer blades and tank plows and rollers and even bridges and other items to actually breach those kind of things. Barbed wire was not becoming as much of an issue as it had been in the First World War. Even though vehicles still had a problem with it, they could negotiate through those areas. The larger threat to most of these vehicles is going to be the introduction of the anti-tank gun systems that will be incorporated in the 1920s and 30s. There will always be a power struggle between the development of armor protection and the firepower that was trying to penetrate the armor. So through that time period, mostly the 20s is a time period where the anti-tank gun systems improved significantly, and then in the 1930s, the armor and the mobility countered that and allowed for the tanker to have a better chance of survival on the battlefield. The big thing is going to be in the First World War, the speed of the vehicles only being 5 miles per hour. They're very slow-moving targets, very easy for a weapon system to be brought to bear against it. A faster-moving vehicle is harder to hit, especially when the commanders are a little better trained because of peacetime training environments and also paying attention to what's going on in the rest of the world and learning lessons from what the Japanese are doing as well as the Germans with their tank forces.